If you've lived on this earth long enough, you might remember that Netflix's website once looked like this. And I mean, I'd say it's quite a big difference from what we're used to seeing on the web today. So let's just quickly travel back in time and see how web design has evolved over the past 30 years, all the way from 1994 to 2024. And let's uncover some fascinating reasons behind all of these changes. So let's dive in. So let's start with the world's first ever website, which appeared on the internet on August 6, 1991, thanks to this charming guy, a computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee. Now, together with his team, Tim launched a page containing information about the World Wide Web, and he also introduced the very first browser to the entire world. And a copy of the original page from 1992 still exists online to this day, so you can even take a look at it yourselves. But Tim didn't stop there, as later on he published a document of 18 HTML tags. And I mean, as you can tell, this page wasn't focused on eye-catching design at all. In fact, it's 100% text-based, and the only color that's visible here is the default blue hypertext. But that is still way better than this line mode browser. I mean, this thing looks like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, and I've personally never used it before, but please let me know if you have. Let me know in the comments. I want to hear how it went and all about it. But anyway, simple designs like this were no surprise, as in the early days of the web, just getting a page up was exciting all on its own. I mean, there was no such thing as high-speed internet connection, so websites needed to be simple in order not to crash. But this humble beginning pushed web design further, and soon after that, we saw the emergence of the very first search engines like Veronica and AliWeb, which made finding information online so much easier. And let's not forget the very first landing pages. I mean, remember MTV's iconic site? Well, yeah, that was one of the pioneers for this. And in 1992, we even got to see the very first photo on the internet, which was this one. And I mean, when I found out this was the first photo uploaded to the internet, I was honestly hoping for something a bit more epic, you know? But then I learned that the first ever video uploaded to YouTube was of a guy hanging out at the zoo. So, I mean, I guess I shouldn't set my expectations too high. But later on, Netscape and W3C browsers came along, bringing cool new features like images, forms, and tables, making websites way more functional and interactive. Well, with that foundation in place, let's move on to the mid-1990s to 2000s, a time when web design started to really mature and grow out of its ancient phase and moving into the Middle Ages a bit more. Now, the initial excitement of actually having a website had worn off by then, and it was really time to get serious about web design. In fact, the term user experience was first mentioned in 1995 by Apple designers, showing that there was a shift more toward designing for actual visitors. And in 1995, the world was presented with HTML 2.0, which brought big upgrades like graphics and tables, giving developers more tools to be creative. Now, table-based layouts became a go-to for organizing content, and although sites were still quite text-heavy, the text could now be divided into columns, rows, and so on for a more organized and chic look. Of course, I mean, nowadays, table-based designs aren't the best choice because with it comes messy code, slow loading, and inconsistent visuals, but that was the best they could do at the time. I mean, just look at this Jackie Chan's homepage from 1995. It says, "Hello, it's nice to see you in my homepage." It's nice to see you too, Jackie. You are the best. But anyway, moving on, JavaScript 1.0 also came into the picture and was used to create interactive websites like this early Apple website, which utilized JavaScript technology to power a drop-down menu. And by that time, we also got all of the fun stuff like page hit counters, blinking text, dancing fun GIFs, and other flashy graphics that, well, just look cheap and tacky nowadays, but back then they worked. Anyway, as more websites appeared, designers began really shifting their focus towards achieving business goals. This led to the creation of those classic landing pages with catchy call to actions like click here or sign up now or something else like that. And in 1994, we even got to see our very first web banner on Hotwire, or now known as Wired Magazine, which had this very subtle but cheeky message for everyone, which read, "Have you ever clicked your mouse right here? You will." However, by the late 1990s, developers and designers did realize that HTML had its limits, and in 1996, Cascading Style Sheets, or CSS for short, was created. It transformed web design by separating content from presentation and enabling better layouts, colors, fonts, and spacing. Basically, all the things we take for granted today. And on top of all that, Macromedia Flash was introduced in the same year and brought a true renaissance era to web design development. Thanks to that, websites were able to add interactive animations and multimedia, creating dynamic designs that grabbed users' attention very quickly. We also saw splash pages, neon colors, 3D buttons, and tiled backgrounds, focusing more on usability and navigation to enhance user experience. But unfortunately, not everything was perfect. Despite its title, Flash was actually pretty slow, and that packed together with its dependency on plugins, it eventually went downhill in the later decade. And actually, the iPhone was also one to blame for this, but I'll come back to this later on in the video. Anyway, the late 90s was an exciting time as web designers really started gathering together in online communities like Design is Kinky or Caliber 10K, where they showcased their work and just inspired each other. And then in 1998, we got our famous search engine Google, which honestly didn't really change that drastically compared to some others. And the first favicon also appeared on Internet Explorer 5.0 in 1999, which was displayed right next to the URL, as you can see. And another totally important thing that happened in 1999 was Zombo.com, an absolutely useless and a bit creepy website, which was one of the most popular internet memes of its time for some reason. And you can still even visit it today if you want. I mean, like the site says itself.
Welcome to Zombo.com. You can do anything at Zombo.com. Anything at all. The only limit is yourself. Welcome to Zombo.com.
That is just so weird and creepy, but anyway, let's move on. So to sum up this era, web design wasn't anywhere near where we are today, and that's me being very nice. But I mean, honestly, all of those experiments and growing pains are exactly what got us further into the early 2000s, which brought way more subtlety, if we can, put it that way. Designers toned down the flashy visuals, garish neon colors, and blocky page structure, thankfully for everyone. And then we started to see way more order within the designs. The rise of broadband internet enabled designers to move from pixel images to higher resolutions. And by 2003, over half of the internet users were browsing with 32-bit hardware, which was capable of displaying over 16,000 colors, which at the time was a huge step towards more creativity. Also during this period, web designers started to cater more to users and their preferences, so they began using white space strategically and linking icons instead of just text. And designers even had their own little playground called CSS Zen Garden. It was basically this platform where you could download a basic HTML template and then watch as hundreds of designers transformed it into unique, stunning websites. And it was a great way to really showcase creativity creativity and pushed the limits of what CSS could really do. Anyway, around that time, Web 2.0 began to gain real traction, shifting from static websites to dynamic user-generated content and leading the way for the rise of social media. The first social media platforms were MySpace, which launched in 2003, and then Facebook, launching in 2004. And these platforms really encouraged web designers to focus even more on user interaction, and it brought some trends like social media widgets and visually engaging profile pages. And another groundbreaking platform that launched in 2003 was WordPress. Now, it started as an open source blogging platform, but quickly evolved into the leading content management system, or CMS for short, that now powers over 43% of the internet. And WordPress made life so much easier by introducing themes and plugins, letting designers and developers customize layouts and add cool features without starting from scratch. And it also made updating content super simple, which kicked off the trend of content-driven design. And by the way, guys, our channel has plenty of videos on WordPress if you don't know that yet. So if you're wondering how WordPress is doing right now, we just covered its latest updates on our channel, so just make sure to check it out. All right, now moving on, search engine optimization, or SEO for short, started to come to life as well in the early 2000s. And back then, giants like Google and Ask Jeeves were using bots to crawl through websites, which meant everybody had to figure out how to get their sites to show up on the first page of search results. That's why designers had to think about making websites more organized, faster, and easier to navigate. It wasn't just about looking good anymore, it was about being search engine friendly as well. And designers also had to create websites that worked across a growing variety of screen sizes and different devices as well. Now, their experiments and innovations during this time laid the groundwork for what we know as responsive design today. And now from the mid-2000s, we are moving more towards the modern website that we all know and love today. Now, this is the time when I personally slowly started enjoying the internet as well. So some of these things really do bring back memories, like these Newgrounds and Miniclip sites that were just the bomb back then that I spent hours and hours playing, basically. Those were the days. But the end of this decade was pretty exciting time to be a web designer. Surrounded by all the advanced software, reliable board brand, and rising social media and streaming services, designers could play with website styles like never ever before. And we can also see the focus really shifting from simply selling products to making sites easy to find and actually navigate. But the most significant change of this time period happened in 2007 with the launch of the iPhone. I mean, remember the hype surrounding it? Well, it was actually pretty huge news for web designers as well, because prior to the iPhone, phones were entirely ineffective for browsing the internet for long periods of time due to poor user experience and very frustrating load times. I mean, I remember that as well. And as Steve Jobs himself during his legendary presentation of the iPhone said, the Safari browser was the first fully usable HTML browser on a phone. Now, this new little device shook the designer community and pushed them to think about mobile-friendly sites. However, it wasn't until 2010 that the term responsive web design was really coined. As mobile usage grew, flat design emerged, removing 3D effects from websites to suit smaller screens, a trend that really remains common in modern web design as well. And remember when I was talking about Flash's gradual demise? Well, the iPhone did not support Flash whatsoever. In April 2010, Steve Jobs, in his written explanation, Thoughts on Flash, stated, "The mobile era is now about low-power devices, touch interfaces, and open web standards, all areas where Flash falls short." So yeah, sadly, that was like the final nail in Flash's coffin. But let's not just get carried away with the iPhone, because other really exciting things happened during this time as well. For example, in 2008, Google Chrome entered the scene, setting a new standard for web browsers with its focus on speed and minimalist design. Also, Facebook introduced the like button in 2009, making it super easy for users to interact with social media content. And Typekit, which is a font library, also revolutionized web typography, offering a simple way for designers to access and use really high-quality licensed fonts. And around this time, other iconic platforms emerged, such as YouTube, Reddit, and well-known Twitter. Now, moving on to the next decade, and we have the 2010s. It was a time of neon cat, Vines, Gangnam Style, and modern websites that were similar to what we have right now today. Everyone was increasingly browsing on their phones, so responsive design finally emerged, allowing websites to adjust to any device or screen size automatically. And by 2014, having a responsive design was no longer optional because mobile-friendly websites became essential, as people really wanted seamless browsing experiences across all of their devices. Thanks to mobile phones, scrolling took over as the main way to explore websites, leading to trends like centralized content, smooth vertical navigation, and very cool parallax effects like on this very cute website. And we also saw a transition from rich real-life designs full of shadows, depth, color gradients, and etc. to just flat designs and a minimalistic approach that really emphasized simplicity, bold colors, and really clean lines. Now, flat design made websites faster and way easier to navigate and gave them a sleek, modern digital vibe. Also, as Retina screens became common, designers also had to use sharper, high-quality images to keep things looking crisp. The launch of Instagram in 2010 also changed how we share and enjoy our visuals, pushing us into a more image-driven culture. So, this decade really shifted web design to focus more on the little details, subtle touches, and micro interactions, such as the like button on social media, which all focused on making our experience as smooth as possible. So thanks to all of these improvements and innovations, we have arrived at where we are today. In the 2020s, websites not only function seamlessly, but also feature stunning, eye-catching designs or just perfectly crafted minimalism. And for some designers and businesses, website creation has even become a form of self-expression, a key part of a brand identity, or even a status symbol. In turn, websites are becoming works of art simply. But I'd say the biggest determining factor of our decade is mobile usage, because by 2024, mobile devices made up 58.21% of global internet traffic. Now, this has driven the rise of mobile-first frameworks and sharper focus on mobile speed optimization. On top of that, we also saw the rise of lead-driven design, which uses data, user intent, and behavior analysis to create pages that drive more conversions and sales. I mean, it's really a game changer compared to the older websites, which often, just existed to check off basic requirements without really paying attention to how they were performing. And what's more, with the rise of AI, creating a website literally has never been easier, because with platforms like Hosting or Website Builder, people can build a professional looking site in literally under a minute using AI without any skills needed whatsoever. And the customization is just a simple drag and drop interface. So when you compare the websites side by side, it's crazy to see how much they have actually changed over the years and how far we've come in terms of web design. Just look at this old Nike site in the year 2000. Can't even believe this was Nike. And even Hostinger's website has changed immensely over the years. Check it out. But even though we've moved beyond the challenges and occasional horrors of early web design, there is still lessons to be learned from those simpler times. One big takeaway is the principle of KISS, keep it simple superhero. Back then, creators often got really carried away with new tools and went over the top with their designs, as we saw before. So let's not make the same mistakes today. I know it's tempting to stand out and look unique, but always keep your user in mind when considering complicated designs. And finally, as we look ahead, I'm confident that there will be even more incredible innovations in web design. However, with great power comes great responsibility. The rise of dark UX, which are web design tactics that try to manipulate users into actions they might not want to take. And this is definitely definitely a growing concern. So while there's plenty to celebrate about the evolution of web design, it's important to stay critical of the content we engage with and the tactics behind it even today. Alright guys, well, so if you saw at least one website that tickled your memories, hit that like button and write down which one it was. Also, let me know if there's anything that you miss from the old websites. For example, for me, old websites just seemed a bit more fun than they are now. Yes, they were over the top, but they had this unique creative vibe that's rare to find today amongst beautiful polished sites. But I mean, maybe that's just me. And if you want to know what the most visited websites globally were in 2024, please do take a look at this video. I'll see you in the next one, and thank you for watching.